Have you ever wondered why some gardeners are pulling ripe, juicy tomatoes from their yards while you are still waiting for your seeds to sprout? The topic of our video today is exactly how to achieve that unfair advantage by building incredibly effective warm garden beds. I promise you that by the end of this video, you will know a secret soil technology that will completely change the way you grow vegetables forever. Let us start with a controversial statement. Digging up your flat backyard dirt every single spring is a complete waste of your time and energy. What if I told you that you could build a garden bed that actually heats itself from the inside out, watering and feeding your plants automatically? Prepare to discover the hidden truth about biological heating that large agricultural companies probably do not want you to know. Let me know in the comments right now, do you prefer traditional digging, or are you ready to try a smarter, lazier way to garden? Before we grab our shovels, we need to understand where this brilliant idea comes from. The concept of the warm garden bed is deeply rooted in Eastern European and German agricultural traditions. For centuries, farmers faced very short, incredibly cold growing seasons. They needed a way to warm up the freezing earth faster so they could feed their families. They developed a method called Hugelkultur, which translates to hill culture or mound culture. Simply put, a warm bed is a layered compost pile that is cleverly disguised as a beautiful, neat garden box. Instead of waiting for compost to finish in a separate bin over a year, these ancient farmers realized they could plant directly on top of the decomposing materials. Today, modern organic gardeners have taken this ancient wisdom and perfected it into a precise, foolproof science that anyone can replicate in their own backyard. Let us start with the absolute basics of the biological heater. What exactly makes the soil warm up? The core technology here is aerobic decomposition. When organic matter breaks down, millions of bacteria and fungi go to work. As they consume the materials, they release a massive amount of energy in the form of physical heat. This means the soil temperature in a warm bed can be several degrees higher than the regular ground around it. Have you ever seen a large compost pile actively steaming on a crisp, freezing morning? That is exactly the kind of magical biological reaction we are capturing right underneath your vegetable roots. A very common myth is that a warm bed is just a tall wooden box filled with expensive potting soil from the local store. But that is completely wrong. If you just fill a box with basic dirt, it will remain cold and lifeless. The real secret is the organic engine hidden beneath the surface. You are engineering a miniature, self-sustaining ecosystem that will feed and protect your harvest for many years to come. Now, let us talk about choosing the perfect location for your new garden structure. Location is everything when it comes to maximizing the heat. You must place your warm bed in an area that receives at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every single day. The sun acts as the external heater, working together with the internal biological heater to keep the soil incredibly warm. Imagine placing a solar panel in a dark closet. It simply will not work. In the same way, placing your warm bed under the deep shade of a large oak tree will defeat the entire purpose of the design. You also need to protect the bed from strong, freezing winter winds. A cold wind can strip the heat away from the soil surface much faster than the bacteria can generate it. Position your beds near a solid fence or a line of dense bushes to create a cozy microclimate. Do not make the mistake of building your bed in a low-lying area where rainwater naturally collects and creates a swamp. Before you build, you must decide which physical style of warm bed fits your climate. There are three main types to consider. You have the raised box, the sunken trench, and the hybrid model. The raised wooden box is perfect for wet climates and heavy clay soils because it provides excellent drainage. But if you live in a very hot and dry desert climate, a raised box might dry out too quickly. In that case, the sunken trench method is far superior. You actually dig a deep hole into the earth and build your organic layers below ground level to trap moisture. Imagine trying to keep a cup of water from evaporating in the desert. You would bury it, not leave it elevated in the hot wind. A popular myth is that warm beds must always be built high above the ground in expensive wooden frames. In reality, a simple mound of earth covering decaying logs directly on the flat ground works just as well and costs absolutely $0 to create. Choose the style that fights your specific local weather challenges. If you decide to build a raised frame, choosing the right border material is absolutely critical for the safety of your food. You will need strong, thick materials to hold back the heavy, wet soil. Natural, untreated wood is the most popular choice. Cedar and redwood are fantastic because they naturally resist rotting and can last for 10 to 15 years. Stone, concrete blocks, and thick metal panels are also excellent, permanent choices. However, we must address a very dangerous gardening myth right now. Many beginners think it is perfectly fine to use cheap, chemically treated lumber or old railroad ties to build their vegetable beds. This is a terrible mistake. Those heavy chemicals and toxic preservatives will slowly leak directly into your rich soil, and your vegetable roots will drink them up. Picture dipping your fresh salad into a bucket of industrial wood stain. That is what happens when you use toxic framing materials. Always choose clean, natural, and safe borders for anything that will grow the food you plan to eat. The very first step of construction is laying down the proper foundation. Think of this as the security system for your garden. First, you must dig up the top layer of grass or weeds. Then, you need to place a barrier to stop deep-rooted weeds and aggressive burrowing pests from invading your perfect soil from below. The absolute best foundation is a thick layer of plain brown cardboard. The cardboard smothers the weeds, but eventually dissolves and feeds the earthworms. If you have moles or gophers in your yard, you must also lay down a heavy-duty steel wire mesh before the cardboard. Imagine waking up to find that a hungry gopher has tunneled up and eaten all of your expensive carrots from the bottom up. The wire mesh acts as an impenetrable steel fortress. A very widespread myth is that you should put heavy black plastic weed fabric at the bottom of your raised beds. Never do this. Plastic ruins the natural drainage, drowns your roots, and prevents helpful earthworms from traveling up into your garden. Now we begin the famous layering process. The first and deepest layer inside your bed is the heavy carbon layer. This is the structural backbone of the whole system. You need to gather thick logs, large tree branches, and heavy chunks of untreated wood. Lay them down directly on top of your cardboard foundation. This wood serves two massive purposes. First, it acts as a giant underground sponge. As the wood slowly rots over the years, it absorbs and holds incredible amounts of rainwater. Second, it provides a slow, steady release of carbon to feed the soil microbes for a decade. Imagine placing a giant water-holding camel right under your vegetables. That is what rotting wood does for your garden during a long, dry summer. Make sure to use hardwood or soft woods that have been dead for a while. Avoid woods like black walnut, which contains natural toxins that actually kill other plants. The thicker the wood in this bottom layer, the longer your warm bed will continue to function without needing to be rebuilt. Moving up to the second layer, we need to fill in all the large empty gaps left by the bulky wooden logs. This is the fine carbon layer. For this step, you will use small twigs, dry fallen leaves, straw, and perhaps some dry wood chips. You want to stuff these materials tightly between the big logs so there are no massive air pockets hidden underground. If you leave huge empty spaces, your garden bed will suddenly sink and collapse right in the middle of the growing season. This layer acts like a thick, cozy insulating blanket. It helps to trap the heat that will soon be generated above it, pushing that warmth directly upward toward the roots of your plants. Think of this layer like the soft pink insulation inside the walls of your house. It keeps the cold out and the heat in. Make sure to step inside the box and jump up and down on the twigs and leaves to compress them. A very common mistake is leaving the layers loose, which leads to a disastrous sinkhole in your vegetable patch a few months later. The third level is where the magic truly begins. This is the nitrogen layer, also known as the green layer. Without nitrogen, the thick woody carbon layers below will do absolutely nothing. You need to add a thick blanket of fresh, juicy green materials. This includes fresh grass clippings, raw kitchen vegetable scraps, green weed clippings that do not have seeds, and pulled garden plants. Nitrogen is the primary fuel that ignites the biological fire. When you mix this wet green matter with the dry brown matter below, the bacteria multiply rapidly and start generating serious heat. Think of the carbon wood as the heavy logs in a fireplace, and this green nitrogen layer as the lighter fluid and a match. It sparks the whole reaction. A common myth among new gardeners is that you need to buy expensive chemical starter powders from the store to make compost heat up. That is completely false. A thick layer of fresh, damp grass clippings will heat up faster and hotter than any expensive chemical you can buy. We are getting close to the top now. The fourth layer is the biological accelerator. This is where we introduce the heavy hitters of soil nutrition. You need to add a thick layer of high quality, finished compost, and aged animal manure. Cow, horse, or chicken manure are absolutely excellent choices as long as they are fully composted and not raw. This dark, rich layer provides an immediate, massive dose of readily available nutrients and billions of beneficial microbes. This layer acts as the bridge between the slowly decaying material below and the fragile plant roots above. Imagine inviting 1,000,000 tiny chefs into a kitchen. The compost and manure are the chefs, breaking down the raw ingredients from the lower layers and cooking them up into perfect bite-sized meals for your plants. If you skip this layer, your plants might turn yellow and struggle because the rotting wood below will temporarily steal nutrients from the soil to power its own decay process. This rich manure layer prevents that starvation. Finally, we reach the most visible part of our construction, the top planting layer, and the protective mulch. You must cover the compost layer with at least 4 to 6 inches of high-quality, screened topsoil. This is the safe, comfortable zone where your delicate seeds will germinate and your young seedlings will establish their first roots. If you plant seeds directly into hot manure or raw compost, they will burn and die. Once you have planted your vegetables in the topsoil, you must immediately apply a layer of organic mulch, like clean straw or dry shredded leaves. Mulch is non-negotiable. Imagine going out into the blazing summer sun without a hat or sunscreen. Your skin would burn and dry out instantly. Bare soil suffers the exact same fate. A widespread and very damaging myth is that bare, totally clean dirt is the sign of a healthy, well-maintained garden. In reality, bare dirt is dying dirt. Mulch protects the soil moisture, blocks the weeds, and keeps the biological heating system running efficiently. Now that your warm bed is built, we must understand the unique watering mechanics of this specific system. During the very first year, your warm bed will require quite a bit of water. The thick, dry wood and the piles of dry leaves at the bottom need to soak up moisture before they can start decomposing. You must water deeply and thoroughly. However, a magical shift happens by the second year. As the internal wood begins to break down into a spongy texture, it becomes a massive underground water reservoir. Plant roots will naturally dive deep down to drink from these rotting, wet logs. By year 3, you will find yourself watering your warm beds only half as often as traditional flat gardens. Think of it like charging a giant natural battery. At first, it takes a lot of energy to charge it up, but once it is full, it powers your garden for months. The heat generation does cause some surface evaporation, which is exactly why the top layer of straw mulch we discussed earlier is absolutely vital to the system. Let us explore the long-term lifespan and the simple maintenance required for your new biological machine. A well-built warm bed is not a permanent, unchanging object. It is a living, breathing, and digesting system. Because the materials under the soil are rotting and turning into compost, the entire bed will naturally shrink and sink lower over time. You might lose 2 to 4 inches of height every single year. Do not panic. This means the system is working perfectly. It is like a slow-motion collapsing cake. To maintain the bed, you simply need to top it off each spring. Before you plant, just add a fresh layer of finished compost and topsoil right on the surface. You never have to dig down or mix it up. Let the earthworms do the heavy lifting for you. After about 7 to 10 years, the heavy logs at the bottom will completely turn into dark, beautiful soil. The extreme heating effect will fade away, but you will be left with the most incredibly rich, fertile garden box you have ever seen. So, here is the ultimate plot twist about warm garden beds. You are not just building a wooden box to hold some dirt. You are literally constructing a living, breathing biological furnace that works relentlessly day and night. By stacking wood, leaves, grass, and compost, you create an underground environment that heats the soil, stores massive amounts of rainwater, and provides an endless buffet of nutrients for your plants. It turns useless yard waste into gardening gold. To summarize, start with a solid foundation, layer heavy carbon on the bottom, add green nitrogen in the middle, and top it all off with rich soil and protective mulch. Say goodbye to back-breaking digging, and hello to harvesting vegetables weeks before anyone else in your neighborhood. Thank you so much for watching this complete guide today. If you learned something new, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and share this video with a friend who loves gardening. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the very first vegetable you're going to plant in your brand new warm garden bed? Let us discuss it down in the comments below.